Hello, I'm Cindy Ehrenberg-Seltzer, President and CEO of the Children's Services Council of Broward County. Welcome to another edition of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children. One of the most heart-wrenching experiences a parent can go through is the loss of a child. More than 300 babies die each year in Broward prior to their first birthday. This could be due to any number of reasons: premature birth, sudden infant death syndrome, unsafe sleep environments, or any other unforeseen accident. Families going through this tragedy in Broward County can rely on the support of the Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies program called Forget Me Not. The program, now more than 10 years old, helps families deal with the emotional, financial, and logistical stress of their loss, both in the immediate aftermath and on an ongoing basis. Here to talk about this important community resource is Kathy Dunbar, the Executive Director of Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, Claudia Rodriguez, Bereavement Coordinator at Memorial Healthcare Systems, and Sylvie Morin, a bereaved mom who attended the annual Forget Me Not event and received ongoing bereavement support following the loss of her daughter Celeste. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Kathy, I want to start with you. This is clearly a very important service that you're offering, but how did it come to be?
Well, you know, babies are dying, unfortunately, hundreds of babies every year. And what was, the Forget Me Not event started 12 years ago, just as a way for families to come out annually every October to remember their baby that had passed. Plant a butterfly attracting plant, release butterflies, have a nice picnic together, kind of just bring families together who've had a similar loss. What we then realized was we had an opportunity because the dollars weren't there for families who couldn't afford to bury their baby. So in the case like that, if a family couldn't afford to bury their baby, they would have to leave it at the hospital. And for a family that's had a loss, then they didn't have closure. So we realized we had this wonderful opportunity through our gathering to raise dollars. So we started using opportunities to raise money to give back to families. So now families are able to come to us and receive financial support through the funeral home so that their baby can either be cremated or buried with respect. And then at the same time, the hospitals do a wonderful job of taking care of the family while they're in the hospital with the loss. However, once the family leaves the hospital, there really wasn't a whole lot out there. So, and I, as a bereaved mom, my first daughter had passed away, realized that before ever becoming involved in this organization. I was fortunate, Memorial had a support group, and that's where my husband and I attended, and met a lot of people who had been going through a similar circumstance. And then in October we were invited to the Forget Me Not, and through that I met some really wonderful people that now led me on this wonderful journey to take my experience, my greatest tragedy, and turn it into my greatest gift and be able to give back to other families. So we realized while we were providing financial support to families and annual memorial support, we needed ongoing work. We needed to make sure that when the mom and the dad left the hospital, that there was a connection to someone who could help them through the process, because it really is a 2-year process. That's what they identify, 2 years. Historically, they said, we would say 2 months. The doctor would tell you, you'll be okay in 2 months. Yeah, and when you do your bereavement work and you realize the process, it's much longer than that. The first year is very intense. So we offer one-on-one support with families, the mother, the father, the children, whoever else is in the home, the grandparents, one-on-one.
They each come in separately, or
it depends
per family?
It really depends their needs. Many times we work mostly with the mother. Fathers have a different grieving process. They have a lot harder time talking about it. I find grandparents to be pretty open, but they're dealing with a very complicated grief because their child is hurting and they can't help their child, and they've lost a grandchild. So through my own experience and knowing my family and what they went through, I'm able to help the grandparents. Plus I'm trained in that area as well. So it's not just the mother, but more often than not, we're dealing mostly with mothers. And that's how I had met Sylvie, who is also a bereaved mom, through the annual Forget Me Not event. Fortunately, I met her husband and her extended family. And for more than a year, we've been working together to help her family get through the process. Through the Forget Me Not event and through one-on-one work, now we've developed a very strong bond.
Sylvie, how did you hear about the Forget Me Not event?
First it started, when I was at the hospital, they gave me a phone number, the brochure, the whole thing, and which was really, really helpful because basically you don't have any knowledge about anything. So, and I make a phone call, and that's when they refer me to Kathy, and so she did really, really help me a lot because at that point you don't have anybody, to turn to. because it's really, really delicate to speak to about death of your child. So she was really, really helpful about that point. And
How old was your daughter?
I had to had there was a birth defect, and she had at 19 weeks. So
I'm sorry.
yeah,
So having the support and being able to be referred was important.
really, really important. So.
And the ongoing work is so important because in the at the outset of the loss, it's very intense, and then they start to recover a little bit. Everyone around you starts to believe like life is back to normal, and you internally are feeling like people have forgotten what you went through. So the bereavement coordinator that you're working with is able to help you at that point in time and help you understand why friends may say insensitive things, or why it feels like everybody else has forgotten and gone on. And then through the coming months things improve, but then around that 1-year anniversary you tend to go right back to where you were a year prior, putting yourself back in the circumstances, and all of the original emotions come back. So when you have someone who's there with you, they can help make sense of that, because you're very confused as to, why do I feel this way? It's been a year. Shouldn't I be better than I am now? So, and unless you're trained in the area, you don't think it's normal. So it's always good to have someone helping you.
The hospital, as we just heard from Sylvie, the hospital can be a key referral source, and also, I'm sure, offering support yourselves.
Right. We obviously initially get the families when they're going through it. It's very intense. We see a lot of different emotions. We're there when they first find out. Initially, it's very difficult. And we have a wonderful support system. All our nurses, the labor nurses, the postpartum nurses. I'm the bereavement coordinator. I follow up with the families one-on-one if I can see them. Always try to contact them after the fact to see how they're doing. Put them in touch with our support group and encourage them to come. And I let them know it's for the whole family. It's very important. And just let them know that there's resources out there, that they're not alone.
When you say for the whole family, expand on what that means, whole family, because I'm not sure everyone understands that.
Well, like Kathy said, it was her loss and her husband's loss, but there may be siblings involved also that don't understand what's going on. They've lost a baby brother, a baby sister. The grandparents are grieving for their children that they're trying to help and don't know how to help. So not only have they lost, like Kathy said, their grandchild, they're grieving for their own child that's in pain and don't know what to do. So it's for everyone. The whole family has lost a baby.
I think you said also could attend?
I'm sorry?
Did you say aunts and uncles?
Anyone that needs the support is welcome to attend anytime.
Sometimes you even find we're a very close friend. I think Sylvie and I were talking earlier that we've both lost close friends during that time period, because some people just can't understand the loss, and that happens. So sometimes you may want to bring someone who just doesn't understand what you're going through, and bring them so that they can hear firsthand, what it is like. Because unfortunately, people say, well, at least you never knew the child. Well, you didn't really have that much time to get to know them, so how hard can that be?
Or
people
you're
say
young,
that.
you can
Yes.
have another baby. Things that they think are that are going to help you, but in fact I've seen mothers very upset, very angry, going, how could they say that to me? So I not only let mothers know, as Kathy does, these are some things you might hear from people. They're not doing it intentionally to hurt you. They're trying to help, but unfortunately sometimes it makes it worse. So, but yes, letting other people know in your family what you need, because they don't know. They want to help you, but they don't know what to say and how to say it. And if they come to support group too, they can hear these things from other families and realize, wow, I haven't been able to support her the way I should have, So it opens up communication for the whole family as well, and they can also see that they're not alone. They're not the only ones that have had this type of loss. So a lot of times that's how you feel. How could this have happened to me, and why did this happen to me? And that's probably the biggest question we get is why? What did I do? And to let them know that it was nothing that they did, it wasn't their fault, and to offer them that support as they go through that healing journey, because it does take time and it's not quick. It stays with you forever. It really does. It changes who you are.
And a lot of people don't realize that when there's a baby loss, a fetal loss, you can identify when you lose someone who's older, who's lived, but a lot of people don't realize that that is the death of a human being. and that at that moment when you've delivered and you're dreaming and planning and expecting everything to be perfect, you're thrust into, okay, now I need to decide, do I want an autopsy? I need to begin planning my funeral. I need to tell everybody who's been waiting to find out the wonderful news that now there has been a tragedy. So all of this is going on at the same time when you're in the deepest of grief that you could possibly be. So that's why the support in the hospital is so important, but then the support once you get out, and the support group, which we do monthly, the second Thursday of every month at Memorial. And even if you didn't deliver at Memorial, you can have delivered anywhere in Southern Florida. Anybody is welcome to come, because that's what we're dedicated to doing, is helping any individual, whether it was their loss or a family member's loss or a friend's loss, to get through it.
And we're focusing right now on the fetal, and I do want to get Sylvie back in to talk about her experience through the program, but this is also for postnatal, right?
Yes.
Up to the age of 1.
Up to the age of 1, absolutely. The newborn death, my daughter was 8 hours old, full term. So yes, we do up to 1 year. Unfortunately, a lot of babies die from unsafe sleep habits. Parents who aren't familiar with how to properly put their child in a proper crib with the proper bedding. So they may, we have the losses up to 1 year life. A lot of times as well, the baby may spend an extended period of time in NICU because they were either born prematurely or with severe defects. And so it may not happen right away. It may be an extended period of time in which that child lived and that they spent time with them, and then the child was suddenly gone.
And we talked a little bit before the show started about, we're talking about children, fetal, that first year of life is when they would have passed. But if someone experienced that kind of loss maybe a couple of years ago and they haven't dealt with that grief, this program is still available to them, correct?
Absolutely. At any time they can come to us, because I've even spoken with a lot of the older generation, because many times in the past there wasn't a lot of credit given to a loss of this sort. So I actually have run into a woman who was in her 60s who broke down crying because she never really dealt with it. It wasn't accepted back then. It was, okay, you lost the baby, move on, have another one. Thankfully, nowadays, that's not the philosophy, and they understand that this is a loss of a human being, and it's a significant loss. So they can come to us anytime. If they are, particularly if they're ready to start thinking about having another baby, a lot of that anxiety comes back. If they haven't dealt with the guilt that they may feel, even though it wasn't their fault, they can be feeling like, I can't go through this again, it must have been something I did. So we need to help them at that point, and that can be years later.
So Sylvie, for those who are out there who might be thinking, should I, shouldn't I, what can they expect from this experience, and why do you want to tell them that they should participate?
Basically, they should, because you don't have any guide, going through a grief. Nobody's, teaching you that in school, and you have a lot of different emotion. And sometimes when you have your family that is really close, you cannot relate to them. Sometimes it's hard, to get them involved. So somebody have, from the outside, that can really help you, and you can share your grief. Most of the time, your grief is getting a lot, diminished, and so you feel relief. So you can feel better. You can go through your grief without less pain, and so.
And I know that anniversary. Sorry, Cindy.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I know that sometimes when others around me are facing the same kind of pain, I don't want to burden them with mine. Exactly. Because you don't want to compound it, or even if you think they you talked before about those who don't understand, but even if they would understand, it's like, well, they're in enough pain, I don't want to add to it. So having someone sort of outside who you can share with is probably very helpful, I would imagine.